Welcome back to the second webinar in the Microsoft 365 SMB Acceleration Program series. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. As you can see from the layout and setup of this webinar, it's the same as the first webinar you saw in this series, with captions in your language to the right here, because Microsoft wants to make sure that everyone will understand and be able to listen in, even if they have hearing disabilities. My name is still Oscar, and I will be your host for this webinar. As in the previous webinar, I will be right down here in the lower right corner throughout the whole webinar. When the other me, as you can see in the first webinar, will be my wingman, right up here, to identify and highlight important details or slide sections as we go along. And right above my head, you can see the different chapters highlighted as we move forward, and this makes it easier for you to rewind or move fast forward if you are running out of time. And as last time, that being said, we highly recommend and hope that you can set aside time to watch each of the webinars in full length. As you know, I love LinkedIn, and I hope you will look me up and connect. I think you will find my network interesting and helpful. I know you can multitask while you're watching this webinar, so please go ahead and search for Oscar Hovland. Thanks in advance. These are the main components that we will cover during these 4 webinars in the Microsoft 365 SMB Acceleration Program. In the previous and first webinar, we looked at Microsoft 365 from a teamwork angle and talked about some basic product information. In this second webinar, we will introduce security assessments and show you how these can be used as a tool to analyze and identify the needs of your customers so you can offer them the correct level of security when selling Microsoft 365. In the next and third webinar, we will talk about managed services and offer development based on Microsoft 365, focusing on teamwork and security, and show you examples of what a solution can look like. And finally, in the fourth and last webinar in this series, we will talk about go-to-market and key resources. So let's get started. This slide illustrates the situation many small businesses today are experiencing. Their IT infrastructure is becoming increasingly fragmented as SMBs often don't have an IT strategy. Instead, they attempt to improve workforce productivity and work within their budgets, constraints by adding various solutions for the increasing number of different tasks. The irony is that this fragmentation means that they are spending more money, but that you, as a partner, aren't necessarily making more profit. When customers add new services and solutions to fill the real and perceived gaps in their IT, they are holding on to legacy systems they feel are good enough. The problem is that these legacy systems take more time to manage, so this also impacts your profit margins as a partner. In addition to this, customers using many different devices often have a mobile or remote workforce that need additional security and protection. This is a major risk. Studies show that 60% of small companies go out of business within 6 months after a severe cyber attack. On top of all that, it's hard and time-consuming to sell and implement an effective high-quality security and business continuity offering when you have to source various best-of-breed solutions outside the Microsoft stack. Previously in the Teamwork webinar, we talked about how this affects you as a partner. The key point for you to remember is that managing multiple solutions is more time-consuming and decreases your profits as a partner. We know that compared to enterprises, SMBs are more vulnerable to cyber threats. This is because even though they both face the same level of threats, they don't have the same resources to protect themselves. I'm sure that these stats and statements don't surprise you. Not only do many SMBs lack the resources for security precautions, but more importantly, they often lack the skills and expertise needed to sufficiently protect themselves. 62% lack the skills to deal with security issues, and that's why they need your help. SMB customers are more eager than ever to work with partners they know focus on and have expertise in security. And this is why you should invest in acquiring the knowledge you need for offering security as a solution. Your advanced knowledge in this area will result in customers asking you for advice because you are a trusted advisor, and this in turn differentiates you as a partner. So why are many attacks so successful, and what are the main things to look for? The number one we can talk about is email. Many of us have experienced a phishing attack attempt. Even though many SMB owners believe that their employees will be able to identify phishing attempts and avoid opening or answering these emails, this is in general not the case. In a well-constructed and targeted phishing attack, there is always a risk of someone within your customer's organization clicking on the link or opening the attachment. Number two is related to passwords. When a business owner relies on one password, it's easy to get into trouble. Users tend to rely on the same password for multiple services. They should ask themselves if they are comfortable knowing that some of their employees use the same password for logging into work applications that they use for their private accounts to manage social media and online shopping. Number three, data leaks. It's often their own employees that represent the largest risk when talking about data leaks. When people are stressed and trying to multitask, which by the way brain scientists says is impossible to do, it's human to accidentally add the wrong participant to an email or share information without having any control of how it's used. We all know that security is top IT priority for SMB customers and will be more and more so. I'm sure each one of you either have heard or have stories about how SMB customers have faced a cyber attack, like getting hit by ransomware or being threatened to transfer money from the organization. The quotes you see in this slide are from customer interviews in April 2019. Adam, working with equipment rentals, 150 employees, says that someone was fooled by an email they thought was from our CEO and used the cork card to send them iTunes gift cards. We lost about $5,000. Joe B, working with food distribution, 250 employees, says the only reason we caught it was that it was a 6-digit sales order and our sales orders have 7 digits. And then Bob, doing property management, 150 employees, he says they got someone's password and sent an email to our CFO who wired them $40,000. These cyber attacks and threats are why your customers need help from you, a Microsoft partner. Why? Because they lack the IT skills to cope with these issues and need your help now more than ever. But only if you are an IT partner focused on security and have extensive expertise in this area. Where are the biggest security pains for small businesses? These are the areas: email, subpar antivirus and anti-spam doesn't catch attacks, users clicking on ransomware and phishing links, users accidentally sending confidential data, mobility. Here's one extreme: deny use outside the office because of security concerns, or on the opposite side, to the extreme, allow all out-of-office use but without providing any protection for data on devices. User credentials. Users having the same password across all accounts increases risk if compromised. Attackers having sophisticated methods to easily steal credentials. Compliance. Standards staying unchanged in spite of organizational growth. Viewing requirements for GDPR and other regulations as too strict and complex. We have covered the changing market and the reason SMB customers should ensure security. Now we are ready to move on to the security components of Microsoft 365 Business. We see that even with an updated value proposition of Microsoft 365 Business and the ongoing development of the product since its launch, the awareness in the partner channel is still low. The result? Instead of gaining greater knowledge about the various components of the Microsoft 365 Business and keeping themselves updated on these, partners are increasingly selling more Microsoft 365 Enterprise, just to be on the safe side. So what we want to do now is to increase your awareness for Microsoft 365 Business so you can confidently offer it to your SMB customers. Microsoft 365 Business takes these three main approaches to security: threat protection, data leaks, controlling data access. Are you ready to dive deeper into these areas? Good. This illustrates how Microsoft 365 for Business is a security provider. The amazing thing is that everything in this complex picture is powered by enterprise-grade security that SMBs can take advantage of. Microsoft 365 Business is not a watered down or less secure version. It's the same set of security platform that our enterprise customers use. The centerpiece of Microsoft investment in intelligence is the Microsoft Intelligence Security Graph. This is how Microsoft synthesizes an enormous amount of data from a multiple of various sources. For example, 400 billion emails get analyzed by our Outlook.com and Office 365 email services every month. Why do we think it's important to see this as an infographic? Because what's important is connecting these pieces of intelligence so that these signals don't end up as individual points of information. The graph brings them together as something you can draw patterns across and you can learn from. From studying the Intelligence Security Graph, you can learn how one point of data influences how you interpret another point of data. The Intelligence Security Graph is something that we are highly invested in at Microsoft, and in our industry, this product is unique for Microsoft. Here are some numbers that show you what the Intelligence Security Graph does. 1.2 billion devices are updated monthly, 470 billion emails analyzed monthly. Microsoft operates 200 plus global cloud consumer and commercial services. Everything from Outlook.com to Xbox Live to Office 365 to Azure and so on. As you probably understand, with all these services comes an enormous amount of surface area that we defend. 1 billion plus Azure users accounts give us tremendous insight into how people authenticate to Azure. And that, combined with the 450 billion monthly authentications that we do with Azure Active Directory and Microsoft account, really gives us some incredible insight into what normal and abnormal behavior is regarding sign-ins and authentications. Question: how often is it that someone has the correct password but isn't the person they say they are? We learn a lot about defending that important control point, your identity, by looking across the specific set of data. Bing scans about 18 billion web pages every month, giving us great insight into what people are doing with web scripting technologies when it comes to attacks and phishing campaigns. We have a great way of looking into that data, understanding it and using it to help customers defend themselves based on that information. On top of all that, we layer shared threat data that we get from our partners, from researchers at Microsoft who are a part of the 3,500 plus people working full-time on security, and law enforcement agencies that we partner with worldwide through our digital crimes unit. In addition, we use botnet data collected through the Digital Crimes Unit. All this intelligence goes into the Intelligent Security Graph. We see more attacks than most other companies see on any given day and get a lot of information from defending against those attacks. We use this information to develop products like Microsoft 365 for Business so it can be a security provider for you and your customers. So, are the security products from Microsoft trustworthy? Yes. Enterprise security from Microsoft is employed by 90% of the Fortune 500. Microsoft 365 Business has recently gotten stronger with a new value proposition and new additions like conditional access, Azure multi-factor authentication, and last but not least, shared computer activation. With conditional access, you will be able to increase security by, among other things, controlling access based on location, device, and application. You can also complement your conditional access policies with new multi-factor authentication capabilities to secure login. With shared computer activation, you can now enable Office to be accessed by multiple users on a shared desktop, and that's good. With the addition of all these features, it's clear that Microsoft wants to make Microsoft 365 Business a robust end-to-end security solution for your SMBs so that they have little reason to buy Microsoft 365 Enterprise. As you can see, Microsoft 365 Business includes a whole host of security features. Some of your customers may already be employing some third-party solutions to do some of these features, but that means dealing with multiple solutions, multiple consoles, multiple support. And Microsoft 365 Business helps reduce their operational cost because it's an integrated solution. In other words, a single sale that reduces all overall operational costs. It helps them increase margins by attaching service to these features, and it helps you get into deeper management of your customer's environment. It's tailored well for transitioning into a Microsoft service provider. What are some of the advantages of Microsoft 365 Business? Microsoft 365 Business reduces your customer's overall operational cost because it's in an all-in-one solution that is better integrated with Office 365 and Windows. If these solutions weren't integrated, they would be a challenge for an SMB to deploy and to get full value out of. Microsoft 365 Business is especially created by Microsoft to meet the needs of SMBs because it's a single integrated solution that, for example, brings together the necessary security capabilities for the price of just $20 per user per month. With Microsoft 365 Business, you can increase your margin with security offerings that tie into features over and above the licensing cost. What does integrated mean for a SMB? Same bill, same admin consoles, same support, less hassle. So the conclusion. Microsoft 365 Business takes a layered approach to security in order to protect against external threats, data leaks of sensitive business information, and helps your customer to control who has access to their business information. One of the critical moments in selling security to SMB customers is to understand the scope of security they need before moving into selling the solutions. To make the customers understand security into the context of their business, we can work with 3 different security assessment tools. 1. Security Assessment Questionnaire. 2. Office 365 Secure Score. And 3. Microsoft 365 Business Secure Deployment Planning Tool. So let's look closer into these tools. Let's start with Security Assessment Questionnaire. This quick assessment will help you evaluate your customer's level of security and use as a basis to build an offer proposal to the customer. Questions are powerful and very helpful both for us and our customers. What questions can we use? For example, how secure are your users and accounts? How protected are you from threats? How safe is your data? How efficiently are you managing security and GDPR? Okay, so let's test them. One of the critical moments in selling security to SMB customers is having a complete understanding and the scope of security they need prior to moving on to selling them solutions. A good way to start so customers understand security in the context of their business is by doing a security assessment with them. A security assessment can be done by asking them questions and based on your analyzation results and their answers, propose a solution. So let's take an example. First, we need to find the acceptable level of security. What kind of security level is, for example, acceptable for a small construction company? The acceptable level of security. If you were to sell them a Microsoft 365 product, either Exchange Online, Essentials, Business Premium, or Microsoft 365 Business, what would be an acceptable level of security for them to be protected and keep their business running? What questions should you ask in order to get answer to that question? You're already probably thinking about questions, but to add on to your own ideas, here are some suggestions. How critical would it be for their company if they lost their mail or data for a period of 2 to 3 days because someone in their organization clicked on a ransomware link, resulting in them having to wait a couple of days for the OneDrive for Business to be restored and get their PC reformatted? How long could they wait before their business was in a critical situation? In this case, could Essentials work for most of the construction site workers and Business Premium for the ones working in the office? How can you know which SKU is the best one to offer? Well, this depends on the size of the company and how critical data is for them to get their job done. The answer as to the level of security you should offer them lies in you asking them the right questions, like the examples above, and using their answers to get insight on their situation and needs. I would like to stress the importance of gaining insight about your customers before offering a solution. Because take our example of a small construction company. Their situation and security needs would definitely look different if they weren't a small company but had like 50 employees and close integrations to internal and external applications and databases. Just to make this even more clear and help you see how important your customer insight is, let's look at another type of organization. Let's now use a small law firm as an example. What's their acceptable level of security? Is the size of the company the only important factor? No, neither will the fact that they have a fierce-looking bulldog at their front desk. It's obvious that for a law firm, the regulatory and legal compliance standards will affect where their acceptable level of security is. Having this insight will lead you to recommend that this small law firm chooses Microsoft 365 Business and even other security products for third-party applications. But what about companies that work with logistics and have employees that are most of the time on the road, using their tablet or phone when collaborating with their colleagues and headquarters? This insight is important because related to this, they have a whole set of security aspects that can affect them. What aspects are we talking about? One is the risk of having employees working mainly out of office, having their IT working tools exposed to an ever-changing environment, and maybe from time to time logging on to unsecure wireless networks. Another could be external ERP system from their suppliers or customers and stresses the need for them to be compliant. Again, all this insight will define their acceptable level of security and the product you will recommend them to buy. As you can see, there is no one size or one level fits all. It's all about you gaining the correct insight so that you can be their trusted advisor. Trust is a major factor here because you build that trust when you analyze their needs, their risk levels, and get enough insight to be able to offer them the best solution with acceptable levels of security for them. So in this perspective, let's take a look at some more examples of questions you can ask to gain insight on the specific security needs of your customers. How about this one? How secure are their users and accounts? The question could be, do they allow employees to access applications and data with a single username and password? Yes? No? What about how protected they are from threats? This question could work. Have their employees been trained on best practices to avoid common cyber threats? Yes? No? I'm not sure. How safe is their data? Do they have a way to send protected and encrypted email messages to others, both inside and outside the company? Yes? No? And what about this area? How effectively are they managing security and GDPR? Do they have a plan in place to detect and respond in case of a security incident such as a data breach? Yes? No? Somewhat? All the questions related to the Security Assessments questionnaire can be downloaded here in the Cloud Champion portal. The result of asking these questions and getting their answers is knowledge, insight, clarification, and awareness. So let's look at an example. What is their top cybersecurity and compliance concerns? Their answers. Well, we've been attacked already, or worried we might be attacked. We have sensitive data we need to protect. We need to comply to GDPR and other regulatory frameworks. We don't know if we're secure or not. We're worried cloud services could make us less secure. We may lose control over data as employees access data from all devices. What about the next tool, the Office 365 Secure Score? The best way to assess your existing SMB customers' security situation, and the first thing you should do, is to run the Office 365 Secure Score. The Office 365 Secure Score won't just give you a total score showing the security level of your customers, but will also give you the top recommended next steps. The goal with this score is not necessarily to get the highest score possible. It's all about balancing the right level of security with productivity, so your customers are protected. Going through the Secure Score together with your customers will also give them the knowledge and insight to be able to make improvements on their company's policies for security. The security score is a numerical summary of their security posture within Office 365 based on system configurations, user behavior, and other security-related measurements. It's not an absolute measurement of how likely their system or data will be breached. Rather, it represents the extent to which they have adopted security controls available in Office 365 that help them avoid the risk of being breached. No online service is completely immune from security breaches, so the Secure Score should by no means be looked upon as a guarantee against a security breach. You can test it on your own organization and tenant by visiting security.microsoft.com/securescore. It's quite impressive and detailed, and I personally learned a lot by looking at the report in detail. The Microsoft 365 Business Secure Deployment Planning tool is the third instrument you can use to assess your customer security needs, and you can find it on the Microsoft 365 Partner Launchpad landing page. We will look closer into the Launchpad landing page during the next webinar, but let's take a closer look at the Microsoft 365 Business Secure Deployment Planning tool. I want to start this off by showing you a demo. Okay, so I'm now going to show you a very short and quick demo. I hope that despite this demo being brief, it will give you an overview of what this tool looks like and how you can use it. You can find the Microsoft 365 Security Deployment Planning tool on the Microsoft 365 Partner Launchpad landing page. So here we are. If you move your cursor all the way to the right on the top here and go to Tools, you will see that in the drop-down menu, you will get access to Security Deployment Planning. Click on that link and that will take you directly to the Microsoft 365 Security Deployment Planning webpage. And voila, here we are. And as you can see, it says the Microsoft 365 Business Deployment Planning tool takes a structured approach to planning and equips your customers with the information they need to confidently implement and configure Microsoft 365 Business. Use the Security Deployment Planning tool to support your customer and build out your professional service offerings, including deploying Microsoft 365 Business, configuring security features for Microsoft 365 Business, configuring Microsoft 365 Business to protect sensitive data, and providing ongoing services. Then if you go to the white box here with the blue frame in the upper right side, you see additional resources. Before we start, it gives us some advice saying, before you start building out your customer's deployment plan, we recommend you review the following technical readiness materials. And the reason why this advice is here is because the planning tool has quite a technical perspective on things. So it's good to go through some of these things beforehand, so we get a better understanding of the questions and alternatives before starting. If you, for example, are a salesperson, you could maybe go through this together with some of the technical consultants in your company. First, let's click on the Technical Readiness series. It's a very interesting place because here you will find a training library with videos, and Microsoft's objective for this library is for you to become a master seller of Microsoft 365 products and services. If you look at the left side menu, you can see all the different topics that are covered. You can now scroll all the way down to, for example, Microsoft Microsoft 365 SMB, and then click on security and compliance, and then on security again. And here you will find a security video library where you can filter your search by type. This means you can choose different kinds of approaches to content. For example, in technical readiness, you can see that you will find some videos with training level 200 and upwards. And if you choose webinars on demand, you can choose various videos. Some of them are 60 minutes and others are shorter ones with training levels starting at 100. And then if you filter by sales readiness, you will find videos meant for sales training with starting levels of 100. If you click on the video, it will redirect you to the video page. Let's close that one and go back to the planning tool and follow the link to the Microsoft 365 Business Technical Fundamental Decks. When downloading, you will see that this is quite a big zipped folder with content intended for technical training. Let's then concentrate on the main page and scroll down to this section called Your Saved Plans. Here you can see I already have my own deployment tool plan started. If you have several plans, you can sort them by, for example, date, alphabetically, by completion, or you can start a new plan over here. To start a new plan, you enter your customer's name and then save it so you can go back and work on it later. But let's take a closer look at the demo project I already have started here. This menu here with the three dots, the option menu on the upper right corner, gives you the opportunity to delete or export as CSV or a full report for your customer as a PDF. When I click on the deployment planner demo, it opens a section with 3 different topics: deployment, security, and Windows 10. As you can see here to the left in my project, it's 99% completed. Since I still haven't completed the Windows 10, the only one still yellow, as you can see. It's still a work in progress related to deployment and directory synchronization. We will get back to that later. There is a section for your personal notes right here, and that can be helpful for writing down requirements from your customers or other details you would like to remember. Again, you have download options here to the bottom of the page. Looking at the first section, deployment, it includes basic deployment, mobile device, Windows 10 security policies, client apps, and policy customization. Here you can choose to go hybrid or cloud only, and you can see there's a little asterisk here. To get an explanation for that asterisk, we can scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and there we are told that the cloud only is the recommended option. That's good because this plan here is quite complicated with a lot of technical alternatives, so you can appreciate Microsoft giving us recommendations. For example, the alternatives regarding deploying Exchange. Yes or no, or you can skip that alternative. The same goes for Skype for Business. Yes or no, or you can skip. For each of these options, you can also get the possibility to click where it says additional info and recommendations. Let's click next, and then we are moving to the next section, mobile device security policy. We will skip these next ones since they're already done and move all the way to the policy customization. As you can see, they're all green. There you can scroll all the way down and click finish to move to security. In the security section, you see all these options: basic security, basic email security, advanced email security, data loss prevention, Azure information protection, and compliance at the end. Since they're all green and checked, you are now ready to complete the security section, and we will do that by moving to compliance, scrolling all the way down and clicking finish. We now need to look into the last section called Windows 10, since it's still yellow because it isn't completed. Deployment is now finished, so we need to go to directory synchronization. As you can see, we have answered some of the questions, but not all of them. So when you click finish, you get a warning telling you how many unread questions you have and if you want to skip before leaving. You can choose to either stay on this page and answer the ones highlighted or leave the page. Right now we choose to leave the page and go back to the landing page. The next step now is to download the plan as a PDF, and you can see here on the left that it's downloading. Opening the PDF reveals a very nice and professional plan and report. Any chapters or questions you left out are in gray, and additional information and recommendations are also included. In other words, it's a detailed, complete, and professional PDF report and plan. If we now go back to saved plans and click on the more options icon in my project, I can choose to delete my demo. And by this, end this demo. I hope this gave you an overview of the Microsoft 365 Business Secure Deployment Planning tool, and that this is something you would like to look further into, maybe together with some of your technical resources, in order to get a better understanding of the questions here and how you can use it as a powerful tool for your organization and your customers. Okay, so here are some call to action security scenarios. The top 3 security scenarios: moving Office 2010 and Windows 7 customers to Office 365 and Windows 10 Pro, attaching Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection to every Exchange Online user, upselling Office 365 Business Premium customers to Microsoft 365 Business. Okay, so let's sum up some go-dos. Download the Security Practice Development Guide here on Cloud Champion, including Learn, Market, Pitch, and Teamwork content. Covered also in the Go-to-Market webinar. Get started with security assessments by leveraging Office 365 Secure Score with your existing customers and the Security Assessment Questionnaire, also available here on Cloud Champion. You can learn the demo and find more resources on transform.microsoft.com. So this ends our second webinar, where we have talked about security assessments and how important this is both for you as a partner and for your customers. We hope you liked it and will join us for the next one. Talking about the next one, what's up in our next webinar? It's all about offer development. In this webinar, we will talk about developing package solutions based on Microsoft 365, and please tune in for the next webinar. So friends, as always, let's get to work.